today. This will also be a quick introduction to just how we work with Fusion 360. So when you get logged in, this is the first thing that you see. So we're in a regular part file called Untitled. Over here on the right, there are a few other items that you might be interested in, some notification extensions, and so on. I like to go into my preferences. I haven't figured out how to make my preferences actually stick just yet because I prefer a reversed zoom direction. That's just kind of where I like to be. So I hit apply and I hit OK, and then every single time I reopen Fusion 360, I have to set that again. So I'm not entirely sure how to fix that. But if I save my file and reopen a saved file, it does remember that preference. So it seems to be file specific, sadly. Okay, so here we are in this blank space. Anytime you start to create a part, the first thing you'll want to do is go up here to this unsaved item, right click, and choose new component. So it'll just be over here telling us we're making a new component. Just leave that as it is. You can give it a new name. Okay, yeah, I'm going to make a paperclip here. And, well, there's my component. So I definitely want to be in that or have that active when I create my first sketch. So when I choose this particular plane, up here I've got all my sketching tools. There are more underneath these drop downs, so you can identify some other things that are in there. So it's a little easier to find things, I think, compared to Onshape. And so this one, even though it looks kind of curvy, is a line. So that's where we're going to begin. And starting at the origin, I'm just going to make some general shapes. So I want to bring this down a little longer because ultimately I want it to look something like a paperclip. And so this is just a path, and you can see where it tries to link up with some, midpoints and that kind of thing. And again, it doesn't matter where you place these. So there's our path. So underneath this paperclip component, okay, there's the origin, and you can even check out the sketches. So this is this first sketch that I happen to be in. This is important because anytime you have multiple parts to make to create an assembly, you will do all of the parts all in the same space. That is one key difference between Fusion 360 and Onshape. And each part, we need to be a separate component. So we'll take a look at that here once we get our paperclip finished. So to make this a little more paperclip-like, we need some arcs. So I'm going to choose 3-point arc, select my two ends, and I'm going to drag this up until those tangent icons pop up. I'm going to do the same thing here. Drag the arc until the tangents pop up. So I know it's nice and smooth with the other lines on the ends. And do it one more time here at the bottom. Oop, too far. There we go. All right, so that is looking like a pretty good paperclip, but I've got these solid areas, and I want to make sure I trim. So that's the same tool, trim. Trim off these lines that I don't want. There's a warning about the constraints. Don't worry about that. We don't want those lines. So this looks like a pretty good paperclip. I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. Rotate this around. You can use your view cube. You can hit the home icon. That'll take us back to the home space there, but you do have to hover over it for the little home to even appear. All right, so what we're going to do now that we have a path is to create another sketch, this time on the bottom plane, or like the floor plane. And so the way this kind of rotates around, we're now looking at the bottom of the path that we created. And go ahead and create a circle right on the origin where we started our paperclip. And we don't want this circle to be huge because, well, this is going to be the diameter of our paperclip. So it probably should be, less than 1/2 inch, for example. All right. So if I go back to home, kind of have to zoom in a ways to see that circle. Okay, so I made kind of a big paperclip and kind of a small circle. We didn't worry about any dimensions. But instead of extruding, this is a special tool called Sweep. Sweep sweeps a sketch profile or face along a selected path. So it would create a tube, and you could hollow it out later as needed. But we're going to go ahead and sweep, and we have to select the profile. So you could even select Sketch 2 for that. Nope, you cannot select sketch 2. You gotta zoom in, select your circle, then come over here and click on the select so that it's blue and choose the path. If your path doesn't all line up or highlight up, that might mean you missed some tangent constraints back when we created the arcs. So my paperclip looks kind of wimpy. I wish it was a little bigger in diameter, so that came from sketch 2. So if I go back into that, I can change this diameter. Right now it was 0.2 inches. I'm going to change it to 1/2 inch. And that should automatically update it. So it looks a little heftier. But if you make it too big so that perhaps it's running into itself, you'll receive an error when trying to sweep it out. So definitely err on the side of small, and then you can certainly make it larger as needed. So that's component 1. That's the paperclip. Now, if you were wanting to make another part and perhaps actually connect these two things together, we would need to go back up to the top, very top. Now it looks like a little assembly icon, and go ahead and choose new component. And so this is yet another component. So maybe I'm going to make a piece of paper, for example. So I'm in that this new place. This is kind of unhighlighted, right? It's faded. But when we go make our sketches, we're sketching on the same planes. We just need to stay away from our paperclip there. So if I want to make a rectangle, I need to make it somewhere else. Okay, finish the sketch. Extrude. Maybe extrude this very, very slightly. Needs to be selected, the profile. And then you can drag it, right? You can drag it, or you can set a specific distance. Okay. So you can have both of them highlighted, right? Or make one disappear. Okay, you can certainly do that too. But when you go to assemble, okay, this is a possibility. We don't want new component, we want joints. So in Onshape, they were called mates. Here in Fusion360, they are called joints. And so there are lots of motion types. There's rigid, okay, that one we're familiar with. Revolute, that one's the same as before. Slider, yep, we saw that one in the, when we made the phone holder, the selfie stick. Cylindrical, it rotates and moves along a single axis, so we would want that for screws and things like that. Pin slot we won't use very often. Planar, if you want something to just move along 2 axes and rotate around a single axis. And then something called a ball, which rotates around all 3 axes using a gimbal system. Okay, so kind of like a gyroscope type thing. Okay. So we can certainly, place very similarly. The icons show up here where you can pick on these different joint points. And you can work on, actually trying to connect these. So depending on what you pick, it could look totally weird. So you would want to perhaps rotate or shift. So you've got, some sliders that you can move. The rotational piece here, if you want to rotate. So you've got lots of options when it comes to these different joints. So that is how we do it in Fusion360, by continually creating new components for new parts so that you are able to join them or assemble them in this same file. Yes, there are drawing sheets, and we can certainly make individual part drawings. And yes, we can certainly make assembly drawing sheets as well. But that's for another video. All right, so we've got a paperclip, we know how to create parts, and we have a way to assemble things. Hopefully, we're getting a little bit more comfortable with Fusion360 compared to Onshape, and we now know, hey, we can do this.